There are certain things that you eat that once they enter your body, they turn into sugar in your blood. And so if you're concerned about high blood sugar, pre-diabetes type 2 diabetes, or even your heart, then listen up, because there are some surprising things on this list that you would never think of that actually turn into sugar in your blood. And it's not what you think. The first one is rice. Rice is a grain. It's made from a plant called rice. It's been around for thousands of years. It's one of the oldest grains that we eat. It has more than just carbohydrates. It has protein, fat, vitamins, minerals, and fiber. But it is mostly known for its carbohydrate content. Now, most people don't realize how many carbs are in rice. If you have 1 cup of uncooked rice, that is going to make 2 cups of cooked rice, and there is 45 grams of total carbohydrates. The American Diabetes Association says if you have less than 50 grams of carbs per meal, you should be fine. But when we look at the glycemic index, which measures how fast a food can raise your blood sugar, rice scores a 93 out of 100. So it's almost off the charts when it comes to raising your blood sugar, and it doesn't take much. One study found that eating just half a cup of rice will raise your blood sugar significantly. And when we compare rice to other foods like pasta, potatoes, bread, cereal, milk, yogurt, and eggs, well, you get the picture. Rice wins hands down when it comes to quickly turning into sugar in your blood. In fact, one researcher compared eating rice to drinking orange juice. Both will raise your blood sugar to the exact same degree. So bottom line, if you want to keep your blood sugar steady and prevent sugar spikes, go easy on the rice. Now let's talk about the rice sugar spike. Most people assume that the glycemic index is the main factor that determines how quickly your blood sugar rises after you eat. But recent studies suggest that there's something else going on here. They call it the glycemic load. This takes into account not only the type of rice you eat, but also the amount of rice you consume. For example, if you eat a very small portion of high GI rice, like maybe a quarter cup, your blood sugar might not go up much at all. On the other hand, if you eat a large helping of low GI rice, like a whole cup, your blood sugar could still increase because there is a limit to how much your body can absorb at one time. Researchers peg this limit at around 50 grams of carbohydrates. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you really want to keep your blood sugar in check, you need to pay attention to both the glycemic index and the glycemic load of the rice that you eat. And this applies to all high carbohydrate foods, not just rice. Now, I'll share some simple tricks later in this video to help you keep your blood sugar steady when you eat carbs. But first, let's move on to the next point. What about rice danger after 60? The problem with rice isn't just the carbs. There's also the arsenic. Arsenic is a toxic metal that can cause cancer and other health problems. And guess what? Rice absorbs arsenic from the soil where it's grown. Now, it's not a problem if you eat it occasionally. But if you're having rice every day, especially brown rice, you could be taking in too much arsenic. Too much arsenic over time can lead to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, stroke, and even cancer. So if you love rice, I suggest you switch to white rice because the outer layer of the rice berry contains most of the arsenic. So white rice has less arsenic than brown rice. Also, rinse your rice thoroughly before cooking it. This can remove some of the arsenic and make your rice safer to eat. Next, let's talk about the link between rice and diabetes. We know that people who eat lots of rice have a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Studies show that eating a lot of rice can increase insulin resistance, which can lead to diabetes. But what if you already have diabetes? Will eating rice raise your blood sugar? You bet. A study of 75 people with type 2 diabetes found that eating rice increased their blood sugar levels by 20% compared to eating barley. Another study found that eating rice increased the blood sugar of diabetic rats by 89%, while non-diabetic rats only saw a 64% increase. Bottom line, if you have diabetes, you need to watch your rice intake. And if you don't have diabetes, well, you might want to consider keeping your rice consumption in check, especially if you're worried about developing type 2 diabetes. So does rice turn into sugar? Yes, rice turns into sugar in your blood. Eating rice raises your blood sugar level whether you have diabetes or not. It doesn't matter if you use white rice or brown rice, wild rice or basmati rice. Even the fancy organic rice that you buy from the health food store. All rice turns into sugar in your blood. So rice is a no-go if you have high blood sugar, pre-diabetes, or type 2 diabetes. Also, if you're trying to lose weight, eat healthy or feel great. Next, let's discuss rice and blood pressure. As you probably know, salt can raise your blood pressure. When you eat salty foods, your body holds on to water, and that can increase your blood pressure. Most of the sodium in our diet comes from processed foods like canned soups and frozen meals. But did you know that rice is another major source of sodium? In fact, 1 cup of cooked rice can contain as much as 280 milligrams of sodium. That's 12% of the recommended daily intake for adults. If you have high blood pressure, eating too much rice could make it worse. Now, I'd like to warn you about white rice. White rice is stripped of its bran and endosperm, which contain most of the nutrients. So it's not the best choice if you're looking for a healthy carb source. Plus, it's a refined grain, which means it's been processed to remove the parts that contain fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Unlike brown rice, white rice has a high glycemic index, which means it can raise your blood sugar quickly. This makes it a bad choice if you have diabetes or are at risk for diabetes. And white rice is mostly made up of carbohydrates, so it's not a good choice if you're trying to lose weight. If you do eat white rice, be sure to pair it with lean protein and veggies to help balance out the meal. And avoid adding butter or salt, which can add extra calories and sodium to your diet. But what about rice and seniors? That's a common question because rice is a staple in many diets around the world. It's often seen as a cheap, easy, and convenient way to get a meal on the table. However, as people age, it's important to consider the nutritional content of the foods we eat. Rice is mostly carbohydrates and doesn't contain much protein or healthy fats. This can be a problem for older adults who need to maintain muscle mass and cognitive function as they age. Additionally, rice is a starchy food, which means it can cause blood sugar spikes. And as we get older, our bodies become less efficient at regulating blood sugar. This can lead to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, which are common in older adults. Finally, rice doesn't contain much fiber, which can lead to constipation and other digestive issues that are common in older adults. Overall, while rice is a common and convenient food, it is not the best choice for older adults who are looking to maintain their health and well-being as they age. Next, let's address rice sugar in bloodstream. What happens when you eat rice? Your body breaks it down into sugar, which enters your bloodstream and raises your blood sugar level. If you have diabetes, this can be dangerous because it can cause hyperglycemia, which is when your blood sugar level is too high. Symptoms of hyperglycemia include increased thirst, frequent urination, hunger, fatigue, and blurred vision. If left untreated, hyperglycemia can cause damage to your eyes, kidneys, nerves, and blood vessels. So if you have diabetes, it is important to monitor your blood sugar levels closely after eating rice and any other carbohydrate-rich foods. You may need to take insulin or another medication to lower your blood sugar levels. Next, let's talk about the connection between rice and aging. When we eat rice, our body breaks it down into glucose, which is a type of sugar. Glucose is used by our cells for energy. But when we eat too much rice, our body produces more glucose than it needs. Excess glucose is stored as fat, which can lead to obesity and other health problems. Obesity increases the risk of chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and certain types of cancer. These chronic conditions are associated with inflammation and accelerated aging. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that eating a diet high in rice led to an increase in inflammatory markers in the body. Inflammation is a natural process that occurs when the body is exposed to harmful stimuli such as pathogens or damaged cells. However, chronic inflammation can have negative effects on the body. It can contribute to the development of chronic diseases such as arthritis, heart disease, and cancer. Chronic inflammation can also lead to accelerated aging by damaging cells and tissues. It has been found that people with higher levels of inflammatory markers in their blood are at an increased risk of developing age-related diseases. In addition to inflammation, obesity, and chronic diseases, eating too much rice can also lead to malnutrition. Rice is a starchy food that is high in carbohydrates but low in essential nutrients such as protein, vitamins, and minerals. When people eat too much rice, they may not get enough of the nutrients they need to stay healthy. Malnutrition can lead to a weakened immune system, making the body more susceptible to illness and disease. It can also contribute to muscle loss and weakness, which can make it difficult to perform everyday activities. Now I'm going to teach you how to stop rice from turning into sugar in your blood. By the way, if you're benefiting from any of my content, please share your success story in the comments below. It inspires others and helps them to never give up. And if you've tried rice and it raised your blood sugar, please share your story below as well. It will help people understand the dangers of rice better. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.